second is called as bagging. So what is emasculation? Why emasculation is essential in artificial hybridization? So the removal of the anthers before anther dehiscence are attaining maturity. Why it is very essential step? Because to prevent the self-pollination. Otherwise the flower becomes bisexual and there is only a chance of self-pollination. Our aim is what? To overcome the inbreeding depression. Isn't it? This is one of the major program in case of plant breeding. Isn't it? Okay. So when bagging is done, so whenever we want to avoid unwanted pollen grain deposition or pollination, that in that instances always the stigma, the whole flower should be covered by the butter paper bag, isn't it? So that is called as bagging. Any doubts concerned with that concept? Students, so always I am stressing this. If anything is confusing, okay, if it is not properly understanding, please raise your hands, okay, and ask at that moment itself. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? ಈ ನಮಗಿದು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡಿ ಇಂದು ಆ ತಕ್ಷಣಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇಳಿ, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕುತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡಿ ಗೊಂಬೆಗಳ ಥರ. ಓಕೆ, ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಸಿ ದ ಡಾಲ್ಸ್ ಬಟ್ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಬಿಹೇವ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಡಾಲ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್. Now the next concept is post-fertilization structure as well as the events of post-fertilization. So I already explained that concept, isn't it? After double fertilization, what is double fertilization? It is the process of involvement of the syngamy as well as triple fusion. It is the process of involvement of what? Syngamy as well as triple fusion. Syngamy is nothing but what? The fusion of the male gamete as well as female gamete, that is called as egg, which is located in the egg apparatus of the embryo sac, isn't it? To form a diploid zygote, single cell product called as zygote. But the second male gamete fuses with the two polar nuclei which are present in the center that are fused. It formed a diploid product called as secondary nuclei, and that male gamete fuses with that to form a triploid product called as pen, isn't it? So since there is an involvement of two fusions, one is called as syngamy as well as triple fusion, therefore this fertilization is called as double fertilization. It is the characteristic feature of angiosperms. This was discovered by Navashin. Now after this, the triploid product becomes what? Pen. Pen that stores with plenty of reserve food material, isn't it? That pen later on develop into what? Endosperm. This much I explained. Now here always the development of the zygote into what? Embryo. This takes place only after the formation of the endosperm. This is not prior to the formation of an endosperm. This is always after the formation of the endosperm only the embryo development takes place. So in most of the angiosperms, the zygote undergo division only after the formation of the endosperm. This is only after the formation of the endosperm. As we know, the pen is what? That is the triploid product. This undergoes continuous mitotic cell division. This result in what? Endosperm. Now, once the endosperm is formed here, then the zygote undergo cleavage. This is always what? Preceded after the formation of the endosperm. Zygote division always what? That is followed by only after the formation of an endosperm. That clearly indicate this endosperm that gives the assurance. That gives assurance to what? Embryo. That makes, as we know that the pen stored with plenty of reserve food material that develop into endosperm. This endosperm that gives the assurance for the development of the embryo, because this endosperm acts as nutritive tissue or a nourishing tissue for the development of the embryo from the zygote. As we know, the pen undergoing cleavage or mitotic cell division that gives rise to what? Endosperm. Initially what happens? This pen nuclei that undergoes continuous successive mitotic cell divisions without the formation of what? Cell wall, isn't it? Without the formation of cell wall. So here, because of the large vacuole in the center, all the formed nuclei that moves towards the margin. Therefore, this endosperm is called as free nuclear endosperm, isn't it? Where we can observe this free nuclear endosperm, that too in case of tender coconut. The liquid form of the coconut, the tender coconut, it is nothing but free nuclear endosperm. Later on, there is a formation of what? The cell wall. That too from where? From the margin towards the center. Then it becomes what? Cellular endosperm. That is, once there is a formation of cell wall from the periphery towards the center, that becomes solidified structure called as kernel, or it is called as cobri. That is nothing but what? It is a cellular endosperm. What about that liquid form? That liquid is nothing but free nuclear endosperm. Whatever it may be either a liquid state or it may be in the form of solid state. Endosperm is double fertilized, triple fused, triploid product in angiosperm that act as nutritive tissue or a nourishing tissue for the development of the embryo. This is the reason why in angiosperms, endosperm formation that precedes to the what? Cleavage of the zygote. If there is no endosperm formation, that zygote also not undergo cleavage. This is the major principle we can usually observe in case of angiosperm. That means there are two types of endosperms. One is called as the free nuclear endosperm and cellular endosperm. We can raise this question. Define endosperm or what is endosperm, and mention the two types of endosperm. What is endosperm? Endosperm is double fertilized, triple fused, triploid product in angiosperms. Two types of endosperm. One is called as free nuclear endosperm and the second is called as cellular endosperm. Any doubt regarding this? No. Look here. So after this endosperm, it may be a cellular or free nuclear. Sometimes what happens? During the development, the embryo utilizes all the endosperm content. So endosperm itself is a nutritive tissue. So when embryo utilizes all the endosperm which is not available during the seed germination, such kind of embryos are called as non-endospermic. Okay, seed is called as non-endospermic. Even after utilization, if there is a remnant of endosperm, for example in case of coconut, or it may be in a wheat, barley, or in case of a palmyra palm, that is borassus. Gotta borassus andre taat nungu antivala, ele ningu, taat nungu antu adaralli. So in all that we can observe what? Endosperms. That is called as endospermic seed. Now, after this is called as what? After the endosperm is? Come on, what? Huh? After endosperm is what? Fossa. Post fertilization is over. So post fertilization changes are after this fertilization. Syngamy product develop into zygote. Zygote later on develop into embryo. Double fertilized product which is triploid, triple fuse develop into pen. Primary endosperm nucleus develop into endosperm. Now the next concept is what? Seed. What is a seed? Look here. Seed is nothing but it is the matured ovule, or after fertilization the whole ovary develop into fruit and the ovules develop into seeds. Ovules always develop into what now? Seeds. Where the seeds are developed, seeds always that formed inside the ovary. So the seed development or the ovule which later on develop into seed, this takes place inside the ovary. As we know, fertilized ovary or a matured ovary develop into what? Fruit. That means inside the fruit we can observe the seed. Now the tip is the seed that having what? Mainly a cotyledons as well as what? The embryonal axis, seed coat, etc. Now, so there is a embryonal axis, isn't it? That means inside the seed what is present? Embryo is there. Isn't it? Inside the seed what is present? Embryo. Inside the ovule there is a embryo. Now our major concept is what now? Embryo. When the embryo development takes place? Only after the formation of endosperm. Only after the formation of what? Endosperm. As already told you, endosperm that gives assurance to the embryo for its development because it is the nutritive tissue or a nourishing tissue. Now, the embryo of both the dicotyledons as well as monocotyledons development is same. That means embryo genesis or embryonic development in all angiosperm, both the dicotyledons as well as monocotyledons, it is same. Then how we can differentiate the monocotyledon embryo from the dicotyledon embryo? Only after matured embryo stage. Once that attain a matured state, then we can what? Differentiate whether that embryo is a monocotyledon embryo or it may be a dicotyledon embryo. After that, we cannot differentiate which is monocotyledon embryo and which is dicotyledon embryo. That is embryogenesis or embryo development during the initial stages, it is similar in both the dicots and monocots. As we know, the zygote is how many cell? Single cell. Now, this zygote undergoes mitosis that result in the two-celled proembryo stage. So, this becomes what? A proembryo stage. Look here. Now, so this is in case of dicots. Okay. Initially, the development we cannot distinguish which is monocotyledon embryo and which is dicotyledon embryo. Now, so here first zygote undergo division to form a two-celled proembryo. Later on, this proembryo, this gives rise to a globular embryo. This gives rise to which embryo? Globular embryo. Later on, this globular embryo, this becomes a heart-shaped embryo. This is heart shape. Got it? First is what? The zygote undergo cleavage that result in two-celled embryo that is called as proembryo. Then proembryo, then it becomes what embryo? The globular embryo. After this, that becomes heart-shaped embryo called as heart-shaped embryo or caudate embryo. Caudate means heart shape. Then it becomes mature embryo. Now, come on, chant it. That is called as what? Matured embryo. Only in this matured embryo stage, we can distinguish whether that is a dicotyledon one or a monocotyledon one. Now, we install. Come fast. Now, in case of dicot embryos, we can observe two cotyledons. One, just you fold you have pencil or a needle. Okay, start. Can you see this? So this consists of how many cotyledons? Two cotyledons. Can you see this? And look here, one embryonal axis. Only one embryonal axis and two cotyledons. Now in case of dicots, usually we can observe how many cotyledons? Two cotyledons. Dicotyledon. Now, so this embryonal axis that having now two cotyledonary structures. The part of the embryonal axis above the cotyledon, this is called as epicotyle. What is epicotyle? The portion of the embryonal axis above the cotyledon. What is epicotyle? Portion of the embryonal axis above the what? Cotyledons. Above the cotyledons is called as epicotyle. Now, this epicotyle always that terminates with the formation of leafy primordia, that is plumule. That terminates with plumule, which later on develop into shoot. So which terminates into a shoot system? Plumule part. Where the plumule is present? In the epicotyle. What is epicotyle? That means embryonal axis. We can observe two zones. One is epicotyle and another one is hypocotyle. What is epicotyle? Portion of the embryonal axis above the cotyledon, and that terminates with what? Plumule. That plumule that gives rise to what system? Shoot system. Got it? Now, the embryonal axis below the cotyledon, which is cylindrical in shape, the part of the embryonal axis below this what? So below the two cotyledons, this whole cylindrical part is called as what? That is hypocotyle. That hypocotyle terminates with the radical. Which zone of the embryonal axis that terminates with a radical? That is hypocotyle. What is hypocotyle? It is the region of the embryonal axis below the cotyledon, and that terminates with the radical. And this radical is covered by a protective sheet called as root cap, which provides always protection to this radical, that is root cap. Now radical later on develop into root system. Which always develop into root system? That is radical. So here in case of dicotyledon embryo, as I already told you that embryogenesis means what? The process of development of zygote into embryo. During the initial developmental stages, there is no difference between the monocotyledons as well as dicotyledon. When we can differentiate only at the matured state. In case of dicotyledons, always the zygote undergo division to form two-celled proembryo. That two-celled proembryo, later on it becomes globular embryo. Globular embryo, it becomes heart-shaped embryo. Heart-shaped embryo then that transforms into a matured embryo. Now in this state we can differentiate which is dicot and which is monocot. In case of this dicotyledon matured embryo, we can observe one embryonal axis. What are the different structures we can observe in dicotyledon matured embryo? One is embryonal axis. Second is what? Two cotyledons. Now, the portion of the embryonal axis above the two cotyledon is called as what? Epicotyle. That terminates with what? Terminates with the plumule. Plumule gives rise to what system? Shoot system. And the cylindrical part of the embryonal axis, which always present below the two cotyledons, is called as hypocotyle. This always terminates with the radical, and radical is covered by root cap, and radical later on gives rise to root system. This is the structure of what? The matured dicotyledon embryo. Generally, we frame this question for 5 marks. describe the structure and development of dicotyledon embryo. For that, first you should write the diagram, then explain. First is zygote, proembryo, globular embryo, heart-shaped embryo, matured embryo. Then matured embryo consists of embryonal axis, two cotyledon, epicotyl, hypocotyl. Epicotyl terminates with what? Hypocotyl terminates with what? Any doubt regarding this? Okay. Then is what? The monocotyledon embryo. As already told you, when we can differentiate whether that is a dicotyledon embryo or it may be monocotyledon embryo only after mature state. Now look here. So generally, first I will explain, later on I will show that. The monocotyledon embryo that consists of a single cotyledon. There is no two cotyledons, but in dicots, how many cotyledons you can see? Two cotyledons, but here only one cotyledon. One cotyledon, and we can observe what? Embryonal axis. Now, the one cotyledon or single cotyledon of monocotyledons is shield-shaped structure called as scutellum. What is scutellum? Single cotyledon in monocots is called as scutellum. What is scutellum? Single cotyledon of the monocotyledons is called as scutellum. This scutellum, it is present in the lateral side of the embryo. That means this scutellum is present at one side of the embryo. Now, here also we can observe the portion of the embryonal axis above the, how many cotyledon? One. That means what term we can use? Scutellum. The portion of the embryonal axis above the scutellum is called as epicotyl. This terminates with what? Mainly the two leafy primordia, that is plumule, and this whole plumule is covered with halo leafy structure that is called as coleoptile. Here you should remember the terms. What is coleoptile? It is the hollow structure which covers the plumule portion of the monocotyledon embryo. In case of monocotyledons, the plumule is covered by a sheath. That's all. Hollow sheath. That protective sheath in monocotyledons is called as coleoptile. What is coleoptile? Protective sheath of the plumule of a monocotyledons is called as what? Coleoptile. That means where we can observe a coleoptile, either in hypocotyl region or in epicotyl. Epicotyl. What is epicotyl? The portion of the embryonal axis above the cotyledon. Here we can use the term scutellum. Now, the portion of the embryonal axis below this scutellum is called as what? Hypocotyl. This hypocotyl terminates with what? Radicle. And this radicle, look here, this radicle is covered by a protective sheath, hollow protective sheath called as coleorhiza. Rhiza refers to root. Okay. Both coleoptile and coleorhiza are the protective sheaths of, one is plumule, another one is radicle. Got it? In this way, we can differentiate the monocotyledon embryo from the dicotyledon embryo. Now, look here. This is what the monocotyledon embryo, matured monocotyledon embryo. This is the single what cotyledon called as scutellum. Now, so the portion of the embryonal axis above this scutellum, this is called as what I said, plumule. That is epicotyle. Epicotyle terminates with plumule, and plumule always gives rise to shoot apex or a shoot system. So this is scutellum. The portion of the embryonal axis above this scutellum, this whole thing is called as epicotyle, that terminates with the plumule. That plumule always gives rise to shoot system. As we know, only in case of monocotyledons, that leafy primordia of a plumule is covered by a hollow protective sheath, that is called as what I said, coleoptile. And portion of the embryonal axis below this cotyledon, this is called as, the whole thing below this is called as hypocotyle, that terminates with the radicle. Radicle having what cap? Root cap, and that is protected by a protective sheath called as coleorhiza. Got it? That is the major difference. Now after the class, please copy down these two diagrams. Okay, I will keep your own. Now, in that way we can differentiate what? The monocotyledon embryo as well as dicotyledon embryo, where it is present inside the seed. Now what is a seed? I said it is nothing but matured or a fertilized ovule. After fertilization, the whole ovary develop into fruit and the ovules develop into seed. This takes place inside the ovary. Now, the seed always that consists of what? Cotyledons. The seed consists of cotyledon. Two cotyledons in dicot, single cotyledon in monocots, isn't it? What are cotyledons? Cotyledons are thick, swollen structures that store plenty of reserve food material that is meant during the process of seed germination. Okay, cotyledons always appear very thick and also swollen structures because of the plenty of reserve food material. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಸರ್ವ್ ಫುಡ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ದಪ್ಪಕ್ಕಿರುತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಊದ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಟ್? cotyledons. Now, as we know that the mature seed, when we say the seed is matured, when the seed that undergo dehydration. When the seed undergo what? Dehydration. That means the water content of the seed is removed, that becomes dry. That is called as a mature seed. Got it? Now, so this seed is bounded by seed coat. Seed is bounded by what coat? Seed coats. These seed coats are derived from where? Derived from the integuments. The ovule that bounded by protective coverings called as integuments, isn't it? After fertilization, integuments gives rise to what coat? Seed coat. This seed coat itself that protect the young embryo. Which protect the young embryo? These seed coats. The seed coats derived from where? Derived from the integuments. Now, so in case of this dry seed, or we can say mature embryo, that is a mature seed, on this seed coat we can observe a minute opening called as micropyle. In the seed, that too where on the seed coat we can observe a opening called as micropyle. So this micropyle is always meant for exchange of gases and also for the movement of water content. Exchange of water as well as what? The water movement, this micropyle is very essential. Now look here. So generally, the dry seed or a matured seed, the embryo becomes inactive. In a dry seeds, that means in a matured seeds, which is inactive, embryo is inactive. This inactive state of the embryo is called as dormancy. What is dormancy? Inactive state of the embryo, that is in a sleeping state. Embryo is in a sleeping state. In that dormancy condition of a seed, all the metabolic activities are decreased. Metabolic activities are decreased. When the embryo is in a dormancy state means all the metabolic activities of the seed is decreased. But when that dry matured seed which having inactive embryo called as dormant embryo, when that comes in contact with the favorable factors, that means when there is availability of water, availability of a proper temperature and also availability of some physical factors. Temperature, water, humidity, all these are favorable to that dry seed or to that mature seed, then it can germinate, isn't it? So that is one of the important feature of the mature seed. Now, the development of ovule into seed, the development of the ovary into fruit, that takes place simultaneously, not step by step. Always the development of what? The ovule into seed and development of the ovary into fruit, that always takes place in a simultaneous manner. Now, in the seed, when the embryo during the development it utilized all the endosperm, it is not available during the seed germination. Such seeds are called as what? Non-endospermic, like our leguminous seeds. Bede kalugulu ellannu non-endospermic. But the seeds, even after the utilization of endosperm by the embryo, if there is a remnant, if the seed retained the endosperm, that is called as endospermic seed, that is coconut, castor, barley, wheat, all that comes under endospermic seed. Now in case of important question, beet. In case of a beet, that is beetroot, we can observe the remnants of nucellus. In case of beet, okay, there is a remnant of the nucellus is persist. Remnant of the nucellus is persist. This is called as perisperm. Important question for 1 mark. What is perisperm? Perisperm is nothing but remnant of the retained nucellus in a seed. What is perisperm? The remnant of the nucellus which is retained or persist in a seed is called as what? Perisperm. Now, we got 3 types of seeds now. One is albuminous, non-albuminous, and some seeds also contain what? Remnant of the persist nucellus. That means perisperm is present. But whatever it may be, generally after this fertilization, the whole ovary develops into what? Fruit. Such kind of fruits are called as true fruits. True fruits are those which develop from the matured or a fertilized ovary. What is a true fruit? Matured, fertilized ovary. True fruit is one which develops only from matured fertilized ovary. That is called as true root. That fruit may be either a fleshy fruit or it may be what? Dry fruits. We already studied that. Fleshy or it may be dry fruits, isn't it? So for example, guava, berries, banana, all these are called as what type of fruits? Fleshy fruits. So after fertilization, the whole ovary wall develop into fruit wall, or it is called as pericarp. When the pericarp or fruit wall is fleshy and edible, that is called as what type of fruit? Simple fleshy fruits. We know that. In some cases what happens? That pericarp or a fruit wall that becomes dry. It is not edible. That are called as dry fruits, isn't it? Sometimes by applying the different types of plant hormones, we can induce the ovary to directly develop into a fruit that is commonly called as parthenocarpic fruits. Parthenocarpic fruits are those which always develop what? From the ovary without undergoing fertilization. The development of fruit without the process of fertilization are called as parthenocarpic fruits. That phenomenon is called as parthenocarpy. So here we got one important concept. Whenever the fruit that develop from the ovary, then we can say that as what? True fruit. So after the development of that what? Fruit, other remaining parts that may wither off. Now sometimes what happens? The ovary is not edible. The edible portion, the fruit develops other than ovary. That kind of fruits are called as false fruits. False fruits develops other than the ovary part. The fruit which develops from other than the ovary part. For example, you take apple, cashew fruit, strawberry, all these fruits are called as the pseudo fruits or spurious, or we can say false fruit, because that expanded fleshy edible portion is thalamus. That is what? Thalamus. Which is the edible portion in case of apple, strawberry, cashew fruit? Thalamus. Actual what? Ovary is present inside. The edible portion is thalamus. That means the fruit is developed other than the ovary part. Therefore, that fruits are called as what type of fruits? False fruits. Got it? Any doubt? So here, true fruits and false fruits, parthenocarpic fruits. So true fruits are always developed from the fertilized ovaries. But partenocarpic fruits develop from the what ovary only, but it is induced by certain hormones. But the fruit which develop other than the ovary part of the floral parts, it is called as the spurious or pseudo fruit, or called as false fruit. Any doubt regarding this? Perisperm, endospermic or non-endospermic, or we can use the term albuminous seed and ex-albuminous seed. Endospermic seeds are also called as albuminous seeds. Non-endospermic are called as ex-albuminous. Now, the seed is the final product of which reproduction? Sexual reproduction, isn't it? It is the final seed is nothing but final product of the sexual reproduction, and matured ovules develop into seeds and seed pod that developed from the integuments, isn't it? Now, so the seed play very important role in angiosperm. It has got several advantages to the angiosperm plants. Now, the sexual reproduction that include pollination as well as fertilization, that are independent process, that not depends on water. Independent process in the sense of what? Dependency on the water. Pollination as well as fertilization, that not depends on what? Water, that are independent. But for the seed formation is dependent process. It depends on what? Water. But pollination as well as fertilization are independent process on the water, but the seed formation is dependable. Now, the seeds always adopted several strategies. Which adopted the several strategies? The seeds adopted several strategies for its dispersal, for its transfer. So that adopted the different type of strategies for its dispersal, for its transfer from one place to another place during its dispersal, that are usually what falls in the different habitats or that dispersed to the new habitats from one place to another place. That means that usually contact in the new habitat, where that germinate to produce what? The new plant. That means this is meant for what? Continuation. And this is the final product of sexual reproduction. Therefore, there is a recombination of characters, and that resulted variation. Because of that variation, we may expect evolution. Isn't it? No. So, the seed play a very important role in agriculture. This is the basis for the agriculture, isn't it? In the agriculture sector, the seed is the what? Essential component. Now, that too the mature seed, which is in a dehydrated as well as dormant embryo seed. So, the mature seed means what? Dry. That is dehydrated and dormant condition of a seed. It is a crucial period for the seed storage. When the seed is in dehydrated as well as in a dormancy state, it is a very crucial for what? Seed storage. We can store such kind of seeds which are in a dormant as well as in dehydrated state for several seasons. For several years we can store the dry seeds, isn't it? And we can raise the crops in the next season. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಒಣಗಿರುವಂಥ ಕಡಲೆ ಬೀಜನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಒಣಗಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಎಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಇಟ್ಕೋಬೋದಾ? 1 ವರ್ಷ 2 ವರ್ಷ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಮುಂದೆ ಸೀಸನ್ಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಾ? ಇದು ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ತಾನೇ ನಮಗೆ. So which is very essential here? Dehydration as well as dormancy state of the embryo in a seed. It is very crucial what period for the storage of the seeds. We can store that for several seasons, and we can raise the crops in the next season by this storage, because that seeds having two important features, dehydration as well as dormancy. We cannot expect the agriculture without seeds. There is no agriculture without seeds, isn't it? You may expect the agriculture sector in absence of seeds. No, it is not at all possible. Or in presence of seeds, if the fresh seed, the seed is formed in a plant, we may expect that seed may germinate without undergoing storage. So that is highly impossible. That means seed play a very important role in the agriculture sector. Now, the seed has got the different or various period of viability. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಸೀಡ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಥರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. The viability period may differ from species to species. Some seeds it has got the viability for months, that can live only for few months, and several seeds that may live for years. But some seeds even that can maintain the viability for 100 of years, months, years or 100 of years, that may retain the viability. The oldest viable seed that is called as lupinous seed. Its scientific name is Lupinus arcticus. It is mainly obtained from the Arctic tundra region. From where we obtained that lupinous seed? From the Arctic tundra. Now look here. So which is the oldest and the longest viable seed? That is lupinus. Its scientific name is Lupinus arcticus. We obtained that from the Arctic tundra region. After 10,000 years, after how many years? 10,000 years of its dormancy. After 10,000 years of its dormancy, this lupinous seed germinated after attaining vegetative growth, and this produced flowers. After how many years of dormancy it produced the flowers? 10,000 years. That means it is the oldest viable seed in the plant kingdom, which is that lupinous seed. But recent oldest seed that has got 2,000 years of viability, that has got the viability for how many years? 2,000 years. That is date seed, Khajura, that is Phonix dactylifera. That too, we discovered this oldest seed of Phonis dactylifera, that too during excavation, archaeological excavation at King Herod Palace near the Red Sea. So from where we discovered that? During the archaeological excavation at King Herod's palace near which sea? Red Sea. That is Dead Sea. Okay. So that is the recent oldest viable seed is Dead Sea. It has got the viability of 2000 years. But very oldest viable seed, that is which one? Lupinus. That is Lupinus arcticus. We obtained that from the Tundra. So even some plants are very small, but that produces several thousands of small seeds. For example, you take orchids, better orchids that produce what? Thousands of small seeds. Even some parasites, like usually a striga plant that also produces a very minute or a small thousands of seeds. That means we can observe both in the normal angiosperm plants as well as in the parasitic plants. Which is the parasite that produces small sized, more number of seeds, that is striga. Now,